Welcome to this grief and trauma integration session. I'd like to welcome you very warmly to this session. And before we begin, I want to say a great thank you to Milam Funeral Homes, both the Newberry and the Gainesville location, and to the Cherished Memories Pet Cremation Facility. These are owned by the Milam family here in Gainesville, Florida. And these classes are sponsored by the Milam family as a community class to be offered so that we are offering a space for people to come together and begin to learn how to hold their trauma and hold their overwhelm in a way that helps our nervous system to process that. My name is Adrienne Engel, and I am a medical massage therapist. I've been a medical massage therapist specializing in complex medical trauma care for the past 30 years. And I'm also a somatic experiencing practitioner who works with trauma and the processing of trauma in the body and how the nervous system is actually designed to do that. And I'm an educator on that. And today in this class, what we are working with are the home practices that are very helpful and very beneficial to do so that we can put ourselves in a position of allowing these bigger experiences, trauma experiences, experiences of overwhelm and loss and grief. How do we learn how to move into relationship with those in a way that's actually very effective and very gentle and allows us to be able to process that. That is what today's class is going to be. This is going to be a series that we're going to be offering every Wednesday at this time. And these classes are going to be available both in the live format. So when you're here with us live, you get to type in questions in the chat box. You also get to type in what's happening for you, and I can offer you a little bit more support and maybe more specific ways of approaching what's happening for you internally. And you can also watch these on the replay if you're not able to be with us live. And so this is a very available class for many people, and this is open to people from our whole community, both here in Gainesville and also all over the world. So I hope that if you are drawn to this, that you come in and sit with us, and feel free to always reach out and ask any questions if you have, even through the Facebook, if you're not able to be with us here live. So welcome. For this class, you're going to want to have a place where you can sit uninterrupted for the next 30 to 45 minutes. And you want to have a journal and something that you can write with. Journals are really helpful, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about that as we are working together. If you don't have a journal, you can just grab a piece of paper and a pencil. Journals help our mind to organize what is happening in our embodied experience. And I'm going to show you how powerful and how helpful it is to be able to work with that today. So we begin our time together by first just taking a moment and allowing yourself to become aware of how is your body supported by the place where you are seated. Go ahead and take a moment, and we're going to spend about a minute paying attention to this. So I'm going to be quiet for about a minute. You can just direct your mind's attention away from my voice and take a moment to recognize how is your body held by the chair or the space where you are seated. Let's pay attention to that together now. And as you are noticing how your body is held by your seat, we're invited to notice which part of our body feels the most held. So it's going to be some small place that feels the most supported. It might be the way my arms are on the chair. It might be the way that my hips are on the chair, but it's usually going to be one side more than the other and one specific place. Go ahead and take a moment and allow yourself to recognize where that is for you. So as you notice where that is, we want to take a moment, we want to make a note of that. So for me today, it's my lower right hip is the part that is the most supported by the place I'm seated. You can go ahead and take a moment and notice what it is for you. And you want to write that down in your journal. You can also feel free to share that with the group. I have somebody who's just joined here on the phone. They're saying it's their legs are the most supported. So notice what it is for you. You're going to write that down, and I invite you to circle that part of your body. Circle what you wrote down there. And we're going to keep redirecting our mind's awareness to that part of our body for a few moments. So we're going to say, here is where I am already supported. Here is where I am already supported. Another participant's checking in and saying it's her derriere. Let your brain see that. And you're saying, here's where I'm already supported. Now we're going to spend about 2 minutes with that, and we're just helping the brain to keep looking at this place. Just keep looking at it and notice how it feels for that area to be supported. Notice what begins to happen in your body as your brain is aware of that. And again, we're going to look at it again, and we're saying, here is where I am already supported. Participants, look again and just notice what happens in your body as you're able to pay attention to that. And then from that place, we want to notice, what does that quality of support feel like to you? Take a moment and notice that. What does that quality of support feel like to you? Does it feel like a sense of comfort? Does it feel like a sense of softness? Take a moment and pay attention to that. What is the word that stands out for you? What does that quality of support feel like? So one of the participants is saying comfort. To me, mine feels like an experience of softness. Other participants, notice, what does that quality of support feel like to you as you're being held in the place where you are seated? So we want to circle this word too. We want to actually go back and you're going to circle that. And you're saying this experience belongs to me. This experience of softness, this experience of comfort, this belongs to me. We're letting the brain be able to see that this is already happening. Take a moment and see if you can feel that. What does that feel like as you are being held in that space? So at this point, as we're looking at our journal, or maybe on the piece of paper that you've written, you've circled the part of your body where you feel the most supported in the chair. And you've written down and you've circled the part that what that support feels like to you. And I want to take a moment and just explain why this is really important and really kind of cool. The way that our brain works is our brain is focused all the time on solving problems and keeping us safe and keeping us moving. And so every experience that we're having, the brain is constantly looking at that experience and assessing what does it need to do to make sure that it keeps me safe, to make sure that it keeps me moving. And this is just this constant process that the brain is going through. When the brain is focusing on that, it doesn't easily recognize what's already working because it's always jumping ahead and looking into what is the next potential problem or what is the current problem that is happening. When we move into a space of consciousness for what is happening in this moment, what happens is it redirects the brain. So what we're doing as we're coming into this practice, we're inviting the brain to notice, here's where things are actually okay. I'm not trying to imagine something like in a Pollyanna way, like, oh, everything's wonderful and beautiful. I'm not doing that. I'm helping the brain to see, here is where my body is already supported. This is something that is already true. The part of your body that is the most held, that you are experiencing as the most held by the place where you are seated, is the part of your body right now that is in the best state of rest. It's the most settled. And when our brain can see, oh, a part of myself is actually already settled, then what happens is the brain doesn't work so hard trying to go out and find solutions. The brain's like, oh, okay, things are okay in this moment. Then what we do is we're actually like learning how to come in and take this time to receive the experience of being settled. And as I direct the brain's awareness back to that, saying, okay, well, what does that feel like to be settled? Sometimes in the beginning, when we start looking internally, consciously, the brain sometimes is like, what do you mean? Like there's, it's like, it's not used to being able to look inside and be able to even have language around the fact that things are okay. That doesn't mean that everything is okay, but it means that parts of my system will always be in a state of being settled. They'll always be in a state of being held, no matter where I am. If I'm driving in my car, if I'm teaching a class, if I'm working with my son, if I'm out in nature, no matter where I am, there's going to be a part of my body that is always the most connected and supported to the surfaces where I'm standing or sitting or walking. As we can bring our brain into the awareness of that truth that already is, what happens is the rest of the body begins to subtly reorganize around that. You'll notice that your breathing begins to change, or your muscles might begin to soften. And this brings us into a state of more global rest in the body. The reason why this is helpful is because when we've gone through a trauma or a stressor that has been extremely overwhelming, something very big, that is, if there's a lot of things that have changed with that in my life, then the brain is like on hyperdrive trying to figure out how to fix all those things, how to fix the fact that it's uncomfortable, or fix the fact that it's really painful for my heart, or change these dynamics. If there's this void that used to, like somebody or some animal used to be present in my life, and now there's this void, my brain can have a very difficult time with that. And as the big emotions come up, they can have a difficult time because it feels like I can't settle. And so this is the most important exercise for us to do, one of many, but this is the most primary important exercise for us to do so that our bodies come into deeper states of settling and the brain is able to take a little bit of a break. So we're going to go back again and we're going to look at how, let's do it again and let's really feel what happens for our brain and what happens for our body when our brain is able to feel how it is supported. We're going to do it again and just notice what comes up. So take a moment and notice how you are held by the place where you are seated now and see if there's any difference that you feel now compared to when we first began the class. Let's take a moment and see if it's a different area, if it's less or more of the same area. So one of the participants is saying that they're noticing that it's a larger area that they feel supported by. In my body, I feel my right hip is supported and also it kind of moves down into my left leg as well. So mine is also a larger area, and also my elbows feel more supported. Another participant's checking in. It had begun in her hips, and she's saying now it's under her thigh and right leg. We're noticing how the body begins to subtly reorganize itself and how we don't have to manage that. This is really, really helpful. We're just following what the nervous system is already doing with the body rather than trying to say, relax. Oh, you'll feel better. Oh, it's going to be okay. If the brain is if somebody's telling my brain to do that, but the body experience is not feeling that way, that can be very agitating for the brain and for the body. It feels like I can't. If I could relax, I would be relaxed. It can be very frustrating. So this is a way that we can actually align ourselves with this power that we already have working in our body, and we can just follow it and follow it. And it's going to lead us through this beautiful reorganization and this beautiful journey of opening so that we have space in ourselves to feel what's happening in our heart, to feel what's happening in our emotions and maybe what's happening in our gut. So you're noticing how that, I call it like the footprint of how you are supported, how the footprint kind of changed shape and you probably settled a little bit more. And then we want to notice, what does that quality of support feel like? Does it feel like softness? Does it feel like comfort? Does it feel like maybe a slightly bit more ease? What does that feel like? One of the participants is saying it feels like security. Feels like security. And so what we want to do is we want to help the brain to see this experience of security. This belongs to me. This is my experience. I'm feeling just an increasing softness in my system. So I say, this experience of softness belongs to me. Another participant is saying, it feels like I'm being nurtured. Yeah, this experience belongs to you. Let's let our brains see that. And I'm going to be quiet for another minute here. And notice, how does your body receive that? Take a moment and notice how your body receives that support. So for me, as I begin to receive that support, my muscles begin to let go. They begin to unwind a little bit. This participant is saying, when I focus on that, my mind becomes more quiet. When I focus on that, my mind becomes more quiet. So if this type of awareness is new to you, this is called somatic awareness, where I'm becoming aware of what's happening in my body. Somatic is the word for body. So think of it as body awareness. When my brain starts becoming aware of the body, my body, the brain can many times in the beginning be a little agitated by that. So I might be feeling some security or some comfort or softness, and then my brain might come in with, yeah, so what? Like I still have had this big thing that's happened. You know, the brain will very quickly go back to what has been lost, or what experience or what trauma has occurred. And that is because our brain is our number one unconscious protector. And so it doesn't want to, its instinct is not going to be to just kind of lay around and take in this, this goodness. The instinct is going to be, yeah, but I still have this other thing happening. And when we feel our minds going to that, we want to be able to be very gentle with our brain, because this has kept us safe and it will continue to keep us safe. What we want to say is, thank you, brain, for constantly being on the lookout. Think about how it's been for you if you're watching this class and you're in the middle of grieving something, a loss of a person or an animal, or maybe a job. I have a participant I was working with this morning who they got a new job, and it's a job that they love, but they're still having to process the loss of what they were connected to and all the people that they had worked with. So even though it's a good move, it's still a loss. And we're saying, thank you, brain, for constantly being on the lookout for to keep me safe. Just notice what it's like to place your hand on your own head. We're saying, thank you so much for keeping me safe. Notice what that feels like. Notice what that feels like as you hold your head, or maybe you even hold your heart. One of the other things that we can be aware of is when my brain is going to the object of my loss, that's an animal or a person or a circumstance, the brain is going there because that person, that animal, that circumstance was significant to me. Participants, if you think about how significant and how much of your life was spent connected to this person, this circumstance, this animal, notice that. Like, my brain is focusing on that because they meant a lot to me. Just allow yourself to hold that in your own head. What does that feel like? You can even lean your head to the side and just hold your own head very tenderly. Let's give this about 2 minutes and just notice what it's like. I'm going to take a moment and notice that. What is that like as you have held your head and are being held in the seat? For me, I feel a bit more ease in my head and then around my brain. One of the participants is saying, let me just open it. Sorry, it keeps closing. One of the participants is saying it brings tears to my eyes and feels like a bit of relief. So we just take a moment to notice how that expression of grief occurs. Might have a busyness in my head. As I hold my head, it might create some more safety and space for tears to come. And I can just say, here's how my eyes express how deeply I am connected to this animal, to this person, to this circumstance. And what is it that comes up for you now as you are in this space where your brain is aware that you're supported? You can actually feel the quality of support that is being provided to you. You've had a little time to hold either your brain or maybe your heart. What does it feel like now? How has the way that your body's held in the chair changed? And what else are you aware of? Okay, one of the participants is saying, let me open it back up. She's saying when she holds her head and the tears start to come, but she allowed them, her pain feels bigger but easier in some way. Like it feels, oh, like her body is able to hold it more. Yeah, so notice that. Like your body's able to let that in a little bit more. Participants, these are just little baby steps that allow us to integrate the grief or integrate the trauma that we're experiencing. This is how your body actually digests difficult circumstances and difficult emotions. Other participants who are present, we're going to just look at these steps again. You want to notice where you started. Where was the first experience that you felt and how you're supported? Notice what that support felt like. You're looking at those two words that you circled. And you're noticing how is that changing inside your system? The longer that we sit and the longer that we practice, how is it changing? So here's one of the fun things that we can do, you guys, is that, or maybe not fun, maybe helpful, that we can do is when you are moving through your day and you are feeling the ebb and flow of, you can be functioning and working with something, and all of a sudden you might come across something that that makes you feel that rush of loss or rush of grief, or maybe a rush of tenderness that comes up. You can notice in that moment, you can say, this intense emotion, this belongs to me because I'm very connected to that person or that circumstance or that animal. This feeling, this aching belongs to me because of my connection. And I can also notice where I am supported. So I can let both of those experiences be alive. Take a moment again, and we want to practice that, looking inside at where do you feel the experience of your loved one inside? Where do you feel that happening? See if you can notice where that is. We can name that here in the group together. One of the participants is saying in their gut, they feel it the most, and a little in their heart. In their gut and in their heart. So you can place your hand on your gut and you can place your hand on your heart. Another participant is saying, in my heart and in my mind. And participants, sometimes it's really nice too to lay down in a bed and hold your own head and hold your own stomach and saying, here's where I feel this loss. Here's where I feel this love too, because you feel lost when it's something that you've loved. So here's where I feel this. Notice what it's like to have your own hands supporting that area. We're going to take about 2 minutes with that. And participants, notice what that's like as we just made that time and space. You can just notice where your mind goes. Your mind will lean into its connections that that are alive right now. Not alive in that way, I'm meaning the connections that we have that are alive in our body. So if I'm connected to grief in my body, that's what's going to be alive for me, and my brain is going to be focusing on that. So notice how it feels compared to when we began this short little session together and where you are now. What has changed for you in this last 40 minutes? What do you notice? Let's take a moment and become aware of that. What has changed for you? One of the participants is saying, when I started, I was feeling very heavy and rushed, and my heart hurt. And now my heart still hurts, but I'm not rushed, and it just feels a little easier to be here. Yeah, notice that. For me, every time I sit down and I do these practices, it just makes it a little easier on my mind and a lot easier on my body. And it allows me to better receive rest. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it allows me to rest more easily. We're going to give just a few more moments to just notice how it is that you feel compared to when you started. What do you notice in your body now? And participants, this is a helpful thing to be able to help the brain to start becoming conscious, is when I'm able to feel what is already true, and what is happening, what is already true in the way I'm supported, and then also what's already true in what is the intense experience that's happening. Many times when we can just put a name to that and begin to see, like, oh, here's how I do grief, or here's how I do sadness, or maybe a sense of being disoriented. Just being able to name that and hold it makes a huge difference in our ability to really stay resilient in this and stay, not that we have to be functioning, efficiently through big journeys of grief and trauma, but we do want to be able to be connected to our life that is also still happening, while at the same time respecting and making space for this reverent journey, you know. So today we worked on the skill of arriving with what is, both arriving with the support that is present, and then also with the challenging experience that is present. Take a moment and see if you guys have any questions about that skill, about this skill of arriving. Do you have any questions about that? Is there anything that doesn't make sense? And for those of you who are watching this on the replay, feel free to reach out and ask questions, even in the on Facebook. I can always get those and answer those and support you in this process. I'll give you guys just a few moments to ask some questions if you need to. So one of the participants is asking a question. How often do I need to do this every day? Well, with that, one of the things that you want to think about is when your system feels overwhelmed, or when you're having a really hard time connecting with your moments, like maybe the depression gets really strong or the grief gets really strong, being able to say, I'm going to allow myself to feel depressed or feel grief or feel fear or overwhelm from a place of also feeling support. My goal is, can I feel both of them together? So really, as far as how often do you need to do this a day, your system is going to be going through all of these different experiences and different names for all the things that come up on a journey of grief or a journey of trauma or a journey of transition. You're just learning some more skills on how to be with it. I kind of think of it as like, you know, those motorcycles that have the really big fat wheels that are like, they're not going to tip over. It's kind of like getting really two really big wheels for this journey that you're already on. It's just going to make it a lot more stable to be on it. And we're not trying to get rid of anything. I'm not trying to get over anything. I'm just giving you a lot of support so that you can be right on the journey, right where you're supposed to be. It's helpful at night or in times that you're feeling really overwhelmed and you want to just lay down to be able to feel, where does my bed support me the most, or which pillow that I'm laying on feels the most supportive, or which blanket feels the most supportive, and being able to let your brain just take recognition of that and rest into that for a few moments, and then noticing what part of my body or my mind is having a hard time right now with how big this is, and being able to hold that. You know, the beautiful thing about this skill of arriving with what is that you can do this all the time. Everywhere you go, you can do this. And this is a really helpful thing to get your nervous system in that position where it can start digesting things a little easier. So really, you want to be able to fit this in whenever you can remember it and think about it. And thank you for that question. That's a very good question. And one thing that I want to point out, that is an important thing to distinguish between, is that arriving with what is very different from trying to contrive being okay, or trying to contrive being supported, or trying to think about things in a positive way. That is not necessarily a helpful thing to do for your nervous system when you are going through difficult experiences. What is very helpful for the nervous system is to be able to just feel what is actually present, what is actually okay in this moment. And so being able to just recognize that here and there is going to open your system up so it's a lot easier to be navigating what is happening. Yeah. One of the participants is saying, I have a prayer blanket and a collage blanket, a college blanket or a collage. I'm not sure. I'm not the best with spelling and reading sometimes, so I get it mixed up. But this participant is saying they have a prayer blanket and a collage blanket. Yes. Oh. And the other participant saying they have a huge down comforter. Yes. And so being able to, yes, a collage blanket with pictures of my first loss. Yes. Yes, so these things are extremely important. And participants, notice how when you wrap yourself in that, what does that quality of support feel like? These experiences are alive. They are alive. And what I mean by that is there is a doctor, her name is Dr. Candace B. Pert, P-E-R-T, like the shampoo Pert, which I no longer use. But her name is Dr. Candace B. Pert, and she was one of the first researchers that did a study on, it's called Molecules of Emotion. And essentially what she said is every time that we experience an emotion like sadness or anger or fear, each different emotion releases different biochemicals in our body as we experience it. So every single emotion has its own biochemicals that it releases. And those biochemicals are a part of what trigger our brain to say, oh, this is what I'm feeling. So this is really awesome because when you are feeling heartache or when you are feeling sadness or when you're feeling connection, like you would feel with being wrapped in this collage blanket or the prayer blanket or the other participant in the down comforter, when you are feeling that, that is releasing tangible physical chemicals in your body that correspond to that quality of experience. And when you think about, like, here's a good thing for, I can show you guys. Let me see if I can pull it up here. I don't want to drag the class on forever, but this is a helpful thing to see. Let me see if I can find it here on my desktop. When you think about how our body is very fluid, let me see if this will pull up for me. Yep, it's going to pull up. This is when I realized this, it was one of the coolest things. Yes, another participant saying perhaps a weighted blanket would be beneficial. Yes, a weighted blanket wrapped with your collage blanket with that stuff. Notice what that would feel like. What would that do for you in your system? These chemicals that we're releasing, especially when they are chemicals of support, are extremely healing and restorative to our system. And the amazing thing is that our body is this dynamic pharmacy. Our body is making all of these chemicals. And when we can help our brain to recognize that it doesn't have to right now be fighting this fire or trying to fix this problem, there's actually nothing it needs to fix. When the brain can just learn how to start recognizing where it's already supported and my body starts producing these chemicals, my system begins to be in a position where it can start to heal. One of my specialties that I've worked with over the past 30 years is I work a lot with autoimmune disorders and people who are experiencing PTSD and things like that. And this is one of the first things that we begin to strength train this awareness, because what happens, let me show you this. This is so cool. So here it just pulled up. Okay, so think about your body as like this container of fluid. And when I experience this emotion of, let's say, safety, laying underneath the security blanket, into my body, here comes this squirt of biochemicals. And look at what happens when we really extend this time out. This is I think a 33-second video, right? And so as I allow this time and space for these biochemicals to express themselves, they're kind of like a liquid firework, right? And we're allowing it to express itself because it's a tangible thing. It's also an energetic thing. It's also emotional thing. There's lots of things that are happening, but primarily we're getting that first squirt of biochemicals that are coming with each different emotion. And each different one is totally different. So if you imagine it's like a different color or a different texture each time. Now, what happens when we have challenging emotions is, now here comes the challenging emotion, and as soon as that biochemistry is triggered in my body, because I have not had, we don't culturally have a lot of understanding about what happens with embodied experiences. What happens is I like, oh, this is sadness, this is grief, this is bad, it's gonna kill me, I gotta like get away from it, and we tighten around it. And as I like tighten around it or try to move away from it, what happens is I'm consolidating the intensity of that. So you're thinking about how much concentration of that biochemical is held in a very small space. And so it's very intense. And it's like I'm doing this, and then I'm like reversing it and doing this again, because the brain is like, still there's a problem. I'm still thinking about this loss. I'm still thinking about this thing, and there's a little bit there, but then I don't like how that feels, because we don't realize if we would just let it happen, like we're saying, this experience belongs to me. And as I let myself feel the support and as I let it happen, my body container feels like it gets a little bigger, and it makes space for how this can disperse through my system more easily, through my blood. And so what we're really watching when we are going through these experiences is, when it is a really good experience, like I feel safety because I'm wrapped in this prayer blanket, and I feel a sense of softness and ease and comfort, sense of security, that is also a biochemical expression. How far can I allow that to spread into my body? And as I allow that to do that, the same is true for any anger or overwhelm or sadness. When I feel those express themselves, what happens if I can feel my first reaction to that, but then I can also, ooh, what happens if I let this move through its full expression and into dispersion? Then what happens? What happens is that I integrate it, and that there's more of myself present. There's nothing that I have to fight against or try to not feel, because every single thing I'm feeling is chemical. And if I allow it, it's going to go through its natural expression and then into integration. This is the physiology of your body. This is amazing. This is profound, and it's amazing, and it's something that everybody should know. And it's why Milam Funeral Home and the pet cremation, I'm so sorry, Cherished Memories Pet Cremation, it's why they are really excited about this class, because they're saying, if we can share this with everybody, then we can really begin to offer people such an amazing support and foundation, so they don't have to stay stuck trying to be stuck here, where things are really highly concentrated, and it's very difficult to make it through these transitions that are going to be a part of our life. We're going to lose things. We're going to lose people that we love and animals that we love. And we're going to lose circumstances that we're connected to, like jobs. But we don't have to suffer so much through that. We can learn these techniques, and we can learn about our nervous system and learn how to partner with ourselves so that our healing can be a more graceful journey. I hope that this first class helps you guys today. I'm going to be, as we're going through these classes, I'm going to be teaching you guys some different things about your nervous system and different ways that you can show up in relationship with that. But feel free to refer this class out to other people. The link for this is going to be on the Facebook page, and this is something that we really want to start offering some education and some tools for people to make their journey of grief and their journey of trauma supported and easier, and so we don't all feel so alone. So I hope that this is resonating for you guys today. One of the participants says, absolutely, that makes it so much easier to trust that the strong emotions can be held. Yeah, it's really cool, guys. It's really cool. Well, thank you for being here. Also, thank you to the Facebook page. We're going to put it on. The I'm so sorry, my brain keeps blanking with us. Cherished Memories Pet Cremation, and then also on the Milam Funeral Home page, I'm gonna put these up today. It takes about an hour for these classes to render after I teach them. So after it renders, then I can upload it to the Facebook page, and I can send you a text for those of you who are here with me live and let you know when those get on there. Yeah. And also, if you guys have any questions as you are moving through the week, feel free to text me. Most of you who are on here today have my cell phone number. If you don't, you can always message me through the Facebook pages. Feel free to text me because I can always answer questions in the next class. I mean, I have about 70 hours of training that I can offer because there's so many awesome, intricate things about our nervous system that is just really profound and makes a huge difference when we are dealing with the traumas and the overwhelms that are going to be a normal part of our human lives here. So thank you guys for being here. It's my honor to be here with you. Thank you, Milam. Thank you, Cherish Memories. And thank you, Gainesville community. We're all standing together with each other as we're navigating what's alive for each of us. Thank you so much. And I look forward to seeing you guys next week. Take care.